Next up in our marathon is Furious 7. They've got rid of the thes, but also the fast and the and for some reason. They went from fast to both fast and furious to just furious. Why? No idea. But point being, this is the next step in the series. Now this both happens after 6, but also Tokyo Drift. And for reasons we'll get to, sure, I guess. Why not? This, of course, is about Jason Statham showing up, that being the brother that was mentioned in 6 by Owen, this being Deckard, who just wants revenge, and that's kind of it. The end of 6, we saw that the car that kind of crashed into Han at the end of Tokyo Drift was actually this guy, and he is here to start killing them. This, I'm imagining, was to be a plan to get them together so that he could just kind of take them off all one by one. As we get into the movie, that's what we sort of figure out. But before he gets to that point, he quickly just wrecks the shit out of everyone guarding his brother at the hospital his brother is at, and seeing the aftermath of it as he then goes to Hobbs and just has this crazy bang-out brawl, which is shot so strangely, and the only 2 times in the movie where they, like, connect the camera to them and have them flip over so it follows them. It's a really cool camera shot that I wish they used more of in different ways, but whatever. He does nearly kill them with a fucking, like, mine from, like, the GoldenEye N64 game? That's weird. Hobbs, in order to save Elena, does kind of grab her, and the two of them are, like, shot out of a fucking building, where Hobbs is then taken out for the rest of the movie, at least for now. He asks Dom to go try and find him, and he finds him real quick when ultimately a bomb is set off at, you know, the house, which totally destroys it, and there you go, we just fixed it all up and saved the property value of the whole street, but now it's fucked again. Thanks, guys. But they realize what's going to go on, so Dom actually follows my boy Deckard Statham and just tries to, like, crash into him. Because Dom just does whatever he wants. But fucking Kurt Russell, who's Mr. Nobody, who leads this, like, secret organization, he comes in and basically saves Dom for now and then brings him and his crew in to help some whole other thing happen, which is save a girl who has this hacking equipment that can basically search for anyone anywhere. Called the God's Eye. It's probably the most important technology that could ever be used, considering it could easily be used for evil. They go on this awesome, cool chase scene where they take cars and they put parachutes on them and they parachute down onto the caravan and they nearly blow the shit out of it. Stuff does not go well, but it's very cool looking, so whatever. They save who they're supposed to be saving, and that is their kind of new recurring character for the series, from what it seems now. Being Ramsey, played by Natalie Emmanuel, who is honestly really cool and really funny, and I really like her. So, cool new character is immediately interesting, and that's how probably it should go, let's be honest here. Of course, it's not that simple, though. She doesn't have the little chip for the God's Eye that they need. It happens to be hidden in a car that she gave to some guy who happens to sell it. So in a terribly not at all plan that at all worked in the slightest, they try to sneak in their way to this Abu Dhabi billionaire's party, and again, they just fuck it all up. Not only does Letty get caught by fucking Ronda Rousey, which is weird watching this the first time not knowing who she was, and then rewatching this after she was in WWE, where I kind of have a very different opinion of her from there to there. But sure, whatever, it's still cool, and she's actually kind of funny in this for the one line that she has.
Thank God you showed up. These parties bore me to death.
So everything goes super wrong because, again, Statham just kind of shows up in the middle of them already fucking everything up, so they have to drive the car out of the building into another building, and because there's no brakes on it, they gotta crash into another building. Because of course they do. They're able to get the chip, though, before it flies out of the window of the third building, and with this they're able to seemingly hack into everything and find where Statham Deckard just went. Turns out, as they try and go get him, is working with the guys who had kidnapped Ramsey beforehand, and now he's hanging with them. Nearly killing them and Kurt Russell. They have to make their way back to, their home area. And they decided to take him on right then and there, which happens to be where Hobbs is, so he, of course, gets on the action, and when he just breaks his cast off, he then drives an ambulance into the drone that the bad guys had following Ramsey and Letty, and then just takes the machine gun off of it, and then just starts shooting at the bad guys. That's all while Dom is just fist-fighting Statham Deckard, because fucking why not? And it just, at that point, you're like, whatever, dude, all this is cool, I don't care. Deckard gets put in a super prison, which he will be moved from for some reason in between movies, and Hobbs continues his job just doing whatever the fuck he'll be doing, which they'll meet each other up again and pair up in the next two movies, so this is a future romance that will blossom onward. While the rest of the characters sort of send off Brian, who decides to finally settle down as he needs to, considering that Mia's having her second kid. Which is a reasonable enough explanation on why he won't be in the future movies, considering that, of course, this was, of course, Paul Walker's last movie, and strangely is the whole entire reason why I ended up watching the series in the first place was because of this person's death and the whole big news around it. The guy was a very important person to a lot of people, and many people's hero, and you wouldn't really think about these movies as being crazy nonsense, that they would really have this effect on people, but it really does mean something when, a actor does well enough and really becomes the character, and that character is just loved enough that when the actor goes, so need to be the character. Very at the end of the movie, not only get a send-off for Brian, but also Paul Walker himself, which is vague in its wording enough that you could have it in both ways, and thanks to the fantastic song by the end of it there, it's never not had me tear up even just a little bit. There's a little bit of tears. While it is a very fitting send-off to the character and Paul Walker himself, the movie should not be judged just upon that, I should state. Weirdly, I feel, though originally I thought it was the best one, probably because I was feeling all of that, rewatching it, I think I actually might like 4, 5, and 6 more than 7. I might like even the original more than 7, in all honesty, because what is this movie, really? It's Jason Statham chasing the other characters as they're doing a separate whole thing, There's no real plot going into this. There's no real tension going into this. It's kind of a bunch of excuses to get our characters to do action stuff. And yeah, that's always been the series, to have excuses to do the action scenes, but even more so. And weirdly, I feel like 8 later on has better reasonings why things are happening, The fact that there isn't really a main villain who is behind whatever thing they're trying to combat and just is doing his own thing, does kind of go against the movie a little bit. Plus, this movie, obviously it makes sense why they're missing Han, but with him and Giselle gone, though you have Letty in there and you have Ramsey to kind of fill in their spaces, there is still less of the group that we grew just really love all together in the previous 2. And again, they still do a good job having the character development continue from those into this for the characters that we still have, and it's all really cool. And you have the ending of the arcs of Letty trying to remember, and Brian slowly moving past into his family life. And because of that, this movie would have definitely been a very nice, fitting conclusion to the series. You have the end of these arcs very, very clearly. It's not that there could have been a future sequel, but like a year later sequel probably shouldn't have been a thing, honestly. I'm satisfied with this movie, it's a fine enough conclusion, or at least should have been, but I definitely would have wanted a better movie leading into that conclusion. I just feel like it's a lot of fluff. It's a lot of not much really actually happening, Just stuff happens because it has to happen. And is it fun? Hell yeah, it's fun. It's awesome. But story, it's incredibly weak. But you're not here for that. You are here for that fun. And again, the movie's fucking awesome. Furious 7 is an incredibly awesome movie. This being James Wan, not Justin Lin. James Wan, mainly known for Saw, which, sure, have this visual continuity, as this movie does feel like the previous. I feel, though, a little bit cleaner, actually. I feel like James Wan has a little bit of a better eye in terms of how to get action going, and really how to fit everything into what it needs to. And it's honestly, the heist scene with all that crazy shit going on is kind of a lot better than a lot of the previous big action driving segments of the whole previous two movies. Most of the scenes, of course. But regardless of visual continuity or not, the action scenes are very enjoyable in this and very, very well shot. They're nuts, and they are a great connection of CGI destruction and actual real cars being fucking obliterated. I would like to know whether or not the car they steal in the movie during the Abu Dhabi scene is really, like Brian says, one of only a few, because if they probably took them all and they broke them, considering how many cars are wrecked to get the right shot for these kinds of things. A bit more CGI than the previous ones, and that's understandable considering the fact they had to blow up whole ass buildings in this, and, you know, run cars through buildings and have cars coming from planes, but still, from the stuff that is real and is there, it is very entertaining and incredibly well shot. Especially when it comes to the inside shots. Sometimes those are a bit weird. I always like shaky cam inside a person's car where they're like, oh no, and it's like, it just doesn't look good. And I feel like it probably looks its best from the whole series, maybe even better than F8. I don't know, I'll get to that later. But James Wan did a really good job with this. And while I'm glad we'll get to Justin Lin again later, James Wan did a very, very good job. Even though, again, I would much prefer him doing shit like Saw, which is a series I'll probably talk about one day in the future. One day. At some point. It's nothing against them, but it's just very clear James Wan knows a little bit more about action. And while Justin Lin definitely grew and got better as the series went on, James Wan, personally, I feel might have been a better director. And I really feel that considering that the acting's better in this. That's right, Ludacris really felt like he was putting actual emotion in this. And I don't know if that was just because he was learning how to actually act by this point, or James Wan was actually able to get it out of him. There's some good chemistry between Brian and Dom when they are on screen. Like, it really felt like they were generally tried to get some actual emotion from them being together. And you really feel like one of these characters is going to die by the end of it, whether it be Dom from going off on his own like a buffoon again and getting himself nearly killed as he does in this movie, or that this almost goodbye scene that Brian gives Mia at the end of it feels genuine and strange when, again, you look back at, you know, who the actor of Brian is and what happened at around the point of this movie. This movie is definitely only good and enjoyable if you've watched the past few. If you know who these characters are, you know their journey, you know what they're going through, and you know why it matters and who they are and why they are a family, then you'll really care and you'll have a lot of fun. But there's not enough character and story, and nothing really actually happens in this movie besides they fight Deckard. And because of that, if you were to watch this on its own, you probably won't like it. Now, if you're there to turn off your brain, which you probably are regardless, you'll have a good time maybe if you don't care about the characters, but honestly, if you liked the others, you should go into this, and only that. If you don't like the others or have not seen them, don't watch Furious 7. There is no reason why you should go into Furious 7 on its own. And in fact, it probably could be said about everything going forward. While obviously F9 at the point of this review has not been released, and I'll talk about F8, and obviously there's two after F9, and we don't know anything about those yet. Again, at the point of recording. But, like, I'm pretty sure going forward, everything's going to basically be on a crux of you know who these people are, you know why they're doing this, just enjoy what's happening. And I feel like 7's really the beginning of that being the case. And it's always been that way. It's always been, you're here to watch the action, the characters are funny, they have some fun times, they have some neat chemistry, blah blah blah. And while there's not no character throughout these movies, obviously, because why would you be watching it if that were the case, there's no real development for people who do not know who these people already are from watching the previous 6 movies. So it's like, if you have not seen or especially don't like the previous ones, F7 will not change your mind or get you on board for the series. Only watch F7 after you've seen the rest of them. It's definitely worth your time. It is a fun, strange, crazy action movie full of your favorite lovable characters. Because the next one we'll be talking about will be Fate of the Furious, which I like to style F8 of the Furious, because F8, why not? Haha. And we'll see whether or not I sort of feel whether that one's better than this, or if they're probably on the same level. And then I'll give a sort of ranking that I'll just kind of throw F9 and Hobbs and Shaw in there when I finally watch them. Until then, I've been the Movie-a-thoner. If you enjoy this review, then go ahead and subscribe. I got those future movies, and of course, if you'd like to, you can watch any of the other stuff I've done in the past. And of course, did you like this movie? Do you think it's better than F8, like I may or may not be going forward? Or do you think it's the best one out of all of them in general? Well, then leave that stuff in the comments. I'd love to talk about that. But more importantly, stay good, stay safe, don't be an asshole.